hang on, wait,
Told you,
what's this all
If you
about?
carried on as you were, and you didn't start putting in the kind of performances the team expected, you were going to lose your drive. As of today, you are no longer an employee of this organisation. I found you an option elsewhere, and I suggest you take it if you want any hope of salvaging this so-called career of yours.
Salvaging my career, huh? I think I know a team that also needs some salvaging this season.
Welcome back. It's going to be one heck of a season, I think. To be honest, I don't think we've done the best job maintaining our performance through this regulation change, though we're going to be playing a bit of catch-up this year. We're counting on you, but you've got the whole team behind you.
Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to my F1 2019 career mode season number 5 for episode number 86 for the Australian Grand Prix. And yes, we have joined Scuderia Ferrari, which is the worst team on the grid as it stands in Formula 1 right now in this career mode save of ours. So we have joined the worst team on the grid, and it just so happens to be one of the most infamous teams on the grid. Kind of nice how that works out there. I don't think I've ever joined Ferrari in a career mode where they've been the worst team, so this really is going to be a struggle. We only have 50 measly resource points to begin this season with, compared to in previous seasons when we've joined new teams. The game's sometimes given us a bonus of 5,000 or 3,000 to work with, but Ferrari here, they've spent all their money, resource points, on developing the car over the winter to try and adapt the car for the resource points, because of course the R&D had a reset on the aero side and the engine side of things, so they've hopefully spent a decent amount to save some. I'll have to see how it goes, but before we get to that, driver transfers for this season. So I have moved to Ferrari, and Daniel Ricciardo, who was at Ferrari alongside George Russell here at the team, has moved the other way to Mercedes. So a very exciting partnership for Mercedes. Ricciardo and Hamilton at the Silver Arrows. My championship rival from last season, Pierre Gasly, has jumped ship from Red Bull and has gone to Racing Point for some reason. I don't know if Racing Point weren't really a top team last season. Maybe he knows something that I don't and he's moved there for a reason. But Lance Stroll has moved the other way then and has gone to Red Bull, which is a bit of a kind of funny thing actually, because of course in the game Aston Martin sponsor Red Bull in the F1 2019 game, and of course Lance Stroll will be driving an Aston Martin in 2021 off that announcement that came out in real life Formula 1. So funny how that kind of works out there. But those are the driver transfers, only a few for this season unfortunately there, but enough to maybe keep it a little bit fresh. And as you can see now on the R&D chart, we've got some major developments here. Williams Racing have become the best car on the grid on paper, so that's going to be Sebastian Vettel and Kevin Magnussen with the best car on the grid technically. My old team Mercedes, I did plenty of work for them, so they can thank me. They're right there with Williams, second place there. Then comes McLaren, Alfa Romeo, Renault. Then you've got the likes of Red Bull, Racing Point, Toro Rosso, Haas, and then obviously ourselves very much so at the bottom there with a lot of work and catching up to do compared to the top teams. In terms of the R&D then for Ferrari, the chassis side of things was completely finished off by the team, so that's good. So at least we'll have a nice lightweight car in the corners hopefully, and also tyre well will not be much of an issue. But you can see there we've got quite a fair bit of this tree left to kind of complete now on the engine side and the aero. Kind of, I would say the same amount for engine and aero, but remember on this game I feel like the engine plays a massive part, so I think that's where we'll be developing the car the most early on this season. We've got some ultimate and major upgrades to potentially do, and also some cheaper minor ones as well. The team have kind of tactically chosen the kind of big ones over the winter period on that reset, so that's good news for us. So the AI team of Ferrari did quite well to try and hold on to their performance over season 4 to 5. I say hold on to performance. They were the worst team on the grid for majority of last season, so they didn't have much to hold on to, but they've held on to as much as they could do on the chart. You can see they're looking a little bit closer at the R&D chart in terms of the scaling of the chart compared to last season, especially. The actual gulf that we've got from the bottom to the next best team, which is Haas, is actually a lot smaller than it was with Mercedes to the next best team at the time. In terms of that jump to the midfield we had to make with Mercedes last season, that took a fair few races, whereas maybe in 2-3 would already be ahead of Haas and we're kind of in that mid-pack, whereas last season there was this massive gulf to the midfield, whereas now you can clearly see every team pretty much is like a nice little ladder, basically, and there's just a small little divide between each team. So the field spread, if anything, has got somehow even closer at the beginning of this season than it was at the start of last season, which is crazy to think, and might mean that even though we are the worst team, we might only be, 2-3 tenths away. Like the entire grid might be completely covered by 1 second, which is going to be mega exciting and very close indeed. But it still means we have a lot of work to do. The efficiency of the departments of this team is not very good compared to Mercedes and kind of Toro Rosso like we've experienced in the previous season, so that will be a bit of an issue for us. So it will take a little bit of time maybe to do upgrades compared to how quick it was in Mercedes. So that will be the big challenge here. It's all going to be very new to me in terms of the handling as well. Oh, the Ferrari versus Mercedes is definitely a little bit different, so that'll be all to take and getting used to. But raring to go for this brand new season of F1 2019 career mode. Let's get into this then. Let's go to qualifying and see how we do over one lap at the Australian Grand Prix.
We're just about ready to kick off today's qualifying here in Melbourne. It's the Australian Grand Prix. I want to talk briefly about the strategy in these qualifying sessions. Anthony Davidson, how can a driver adjust their approach to gain those critical extra tenths of a second?
Well, qualifying isn't about adjusting your approach necessarily, it's more about trying to repeat a low fuel run that you've practiced prior to this session. You're looking for perfection on the lap, and that's hard to achieve if you're trying something new. There are some variables that can stand in your way, however. Track position or unexpected yellow flags, for example. Coupled with ever-changing track conditions, it's important to be out there at the right moment. But as a driver, you have to try and ignore these distractions and just keep your mind focused on that one perfect lap.
Okay, I know you're eager to get out there, but I'm going to need you to be patient for a few minutes. We're just trying to zero in on an oil leak.
Alright, so here we are then in Q1, and we're straight away met with an issue with the car. We have to sit in the garage for 4 minutes. Of course, it had to happen with this team, with Ferrari. It was always bound to happen. Lubrication system fault, and so we are sat here for 4 minutes. Crucial time, potentially, because this car is maybe going to struggle to get through into Q2. I don't know. I hope not, but it might do, and that's just time wasted that we didn't need to waste, basically. So here we go, finally sitting through those 4 minutes and going through on track, and now getting used to this brand new matte red car of ours compared to the shiny silver Arrow I was driving last season. They're definitely, I can feel the difference in downforce for sure in terms of the aero being reset. The turning isn't as sharp, and I think you'll notice that around the lap, as you can see, just a bit of understeer here and there through turns 1 and all the last corner as well. I think that's a combo of the car itself, of the Ferrari, and also the aero being reset. Obviously, I was so used to a maxed out aero chart last season, so definitely going to take some adapting to. But that first flying lap wasn't really that great. We're P17 here, just behind George Russell, though, in P16. So you can maybe say that's where the car is. I kind of hope not, but you can see I've gained about maybe 1/10 there. Going to maybe hopefully gain a little bit more as we get a better exit off that right-hander to the next break. So a little bit more aggressive on the curb there, a little bit deeper into the corner, but we carry more speed, actually. So ironically, it actually works out better, even though it looked like I made a mistake there. And so we gained 1 more tenth then through the last sector there, trying to gain up to about 3 tenths if we can on this second fly. This is our last flyer as well, because we've got 4 minutes to go. Won't have enough time to go back in the garage and then send myself back out again. At the moment there, my old car of Ricardo, obviously Ricardo replaced me, is on a provisional P1 in Q1. Across the line for us, it's P14 there, so we would make it through. Would, or emphasis on would, because as we go through to the end of the session, of course, other people were bound to set lap times because there was 4 minutes left. And in the end, both us Ferrari cars are knocked out in Q1. George Russell finishes up in P16. I actually end up back in P17 then. And George Russell, the first time I'm asking, does beat me, just by a fraction, but does beat me. So that might mean something psychologically for him. But the real issue is both cars are out of Q1. So I said we were the slowest car on the grid. We've beaten the Haas car, so actually on paper maybe we're a little bit faster than the Haas, but we're still not Q2 material, and we're talking about Ferrari here, a team that usually aims for nothing but Q3 and nothing but podiums and wins, and we can't even make it through the first time, the first session of qualifying. So yeah, we're not exactly where we want to be as a team, as a driver. We've got a lot of work to do. The race, I'm not too sure. Hopefully the race pace will be a little bit better. Generally it is at Australia for sure. Qualifying is very, very tricky in Australia. The AI are very good over one lap and very consistent there. So maybe we'll have a greater chance of maybe scrounging 1 or 2 measly points. That's the hope for tomorrow. Let's go to the grid and see how we do.
They say that even a second is an eternity in Formula One, so going 4 winter months with no racing at all has seemed a very long time indeed. We're back though in Melbourne, home of the Australian Grand Prix since 1996. The Melbourne circuit is certainly one that needs to be taken seriously. Its combination of slippery surfaces and difficult corners make it a tricky track when it comes to overtakes. Drivers find it hard to pass and will need to take full advantage of those DRS zones if they want to have any hope of breaking through. I'm joined today in the commentary box, as I will be throughout this season, by a great racing driver, former F1 competitor, former world champion, and as he tells me all too often, an all-round top chap. It's the one and only Anthony Davidson. And tell me, here we are, first Grand Prix of the season, first time racing these cars. What are the big questions that need to be answered here, in your view?
Oh, thanks, Crofty. It's a real privilege to be here, and I can't wait to see what's in store for us this season. Now, to answer your question, one of the biggest things is reliability. Formula One cars are full of very sophisticated but also very sensitive technology, and this first Grand Prix of the season is going to push them to the limits. So the most important thing today is to stay out of trouble, get to the end of the race and keep everything in good condition.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. Pierre Gasly lines up on pole position, with Daniel Ricciardo slotting in alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Hamilton, Hülkenberg, Sebastian Vettel and Kvyat, Leclerc, Verstappen, Magnussen and Devon Butler, Perez, Weber, Lando Norris and Raikkonen, Stroll, Russell, the engineer and Valtteri Bottas, Grosjean and Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track.
Alright, so here we are then on the grid in P17 in our Ferrari. Definitely not a sentence I thought I'd be saying at the very start of this career mode back in June, but here we are then, Season 5, things have developed very weirdly in this world of Formula 1 in our career mode save. Pierre Gasly on pole position in the Racing Point car, so I said maybe he knew something about jumping ship from Red Bull to Racing Point. Clearly, they're actually a dark horse because they're not very high up on the R&D chart, but looks like they've got some mega pace in Q3 there, so my old championship rival is probably chuckling at the moment because he's still at the forefront, and even though I beat him last season for the championship, I'm way at the back now, so he's probably pretty happy as it stands there. So we've got a lot of work to do this season and a lot of work to do this race to maybe try and get something out of this. It's going to be a one-stop because of course everyone is going to have that good tyre wear upgrades from the chassis side of things that did not get reset for this season, so a one-stop onto potentially a set of hard tyres, but the mediums are an option if we have a good enough stint on the first stint on the soft tyre. So we'll kind of play about here, see if we're in clean air maybe, then we can maybe try our hand at the medium tyre stint. I don't know what the engine's going to be like in terms of the fuel. Last season I was able to get away with 0.5 laps of extra fuel, and that was enough for the entire race. I'm not too sure if this engine now will be thirstier than my last car in career mode, so I'm going to just play it safe and have 1 lap of fuel, and if we need to adjust that next race we will do. Without further ado then, let's get into this then and begin Season 5 of our F1 2019 career mode as we go to 5 red lights for the Australian Grand Prix from P17 on the grid. We're underway. It's a good start compared to Kimi Raikkonen, at least on the right-hand side. Russell tries to get in the middle there. We're going to try and fend off the inside line of the Toro Rosso Bottas. They have a little look down the inside of our teammate Russell, but in the end doesn't come to anything, so it's still P17, so at least we haven't lost a position there, but we didn't really gain too much. Russell parking the car very awkwardly on the right, so we're going to go to the left-hand side, and that actually opens up some space, funny enough there, because Stroll, for some reason, just gets out of my way there. I think he tried to maybe try something with Raikkonen, Raikkonen, and in the end just allows me through. So a bit of oversteer there as we go through the next right-hander, and again a big snap of oversteer. So the car very unstable, it would seem, on higher fuel there, which in the past has been a kind of Ferrari thing of the car feeling a little bit odd either on high fuel or low fuel in past seasons. So hopefully the car is going to get better and not worse as we go on to lower fuel base. Even a good start for us then in that first sector really to try and catch Stroll napping, and now I'm going to try and get in the back of my very first teammate in this career mode, Kimi Raikkonen, in the Alfa Romeo, who's going to be disappointed because the Alfa seems quite fast on the R&D chart, so I don't know why he's really down here in P14. But as we swing through the final corner of the first lap of this season and the race, Raikkonen right on the back of Lucas Weber then in the Renault. You can see the fuel spread is very small and tiny as we can see the leaders up ahead going through turn 1. Raikkonen tries a little look on the right hand side, doesn't work out, and in the end probably compromises his line out of turn 1 and 2. So can we make a move now? Where is he going to go again? Like Russell, parks it very awkwardly to the middle of the circuit, so in the end I just have to go around the outside. It works out for us. We squeeze through there just about enough space to work with the grass on the left hand side, and we're up into P14. So that place, that overtake specifically, is actually becoming a kind of favourite of mine, it would seem, in this race. Twice done, and can we maybe do it a third time potential on Weber, as Weber gets a snap of oversteer and we overtake him in a blink of an eye there, as the German has a major issue with the rear end of that Renault there. It's stepped out. I haven't seen an AI make a mistake like that ever in the game there, but that was actually very cool to see. So we're up into P13 then. So I was effectively a free position because he just made a mistake there, but I'll take it. And now we move on to lap number 3, and we're looking at the back of Lando Norris here, who's fighting his teammate Sergio Perez very harshly indeed. And that's lost them both time to the point where now I can send one down the inside. A little bit of contact made there on the front left, so I will admit that was a bit overly aggressive from me down the inside, but needs must when you're in a slow car like this. That definitely feels like a bit of a donkey compared to a prancing horse, to be honest. But we make the move, and now we're in a McLaren sandwich here. Sergio Perez on the back of the Williams of Kevin Magnussen, who is another car who will be disappointed of where he is, because of course the Williams, well, it's meant to be the fastest car. I think Sebastian Vettel qualified around P5, but Magnussen down here in the lower top 10, and also now he's just been overtaken by the Mexican. So can we try and get him and embarrass him some more as we go through on the inside this time here to this corner? DRS open, down the inside we go, squeeze him out on the exit, and that's a pretty easy pass up into P11, no issue for us. So we're now one place off the points here, but we've already done so much fighting just to get here, and also now you can see on the mini-map the gap to the leaders is growing ever more as we now move on to lap number 5, closing up to Devin Butler, who's been overtaken by Sergio Perez, but we've got company here. Down the inside as Magnussen sends a massive dive there, and really impressed with that. I completely got caught off guard there, didn't expect him to do that there, so the AI feeling very punchy, it would seem, at this Australian Grand Prix, but we're able to deal with there down the inside of the next left-hander and keep the P11, and Sergio Perez really on a charge there, so we're trying to follow him through as best I can, but Butler a little bit further away. Purple second sector though, but look at that, Butler comes back at Sergio Perez, so this is great scrapping between the AI there. They're neck and neck now on the exit. That's going to allow us in, going to get the toe off Perez, then Butler get the double slipstream. Down the inside we go then of our former F2 rival, going to squeeze him out, no love lost, and we're up into P9. A little bit of contact there, but we got the job done, and so that's 2 places in 1 corner. Really great work there, opportunistic from us. And so now we have some clean air to work with. Can we try and chase after Hulkenberg? Let's see. It might be wishful thinking because his teammate Pierre Gasly, well, wow, he is absolutely dominating this Australian Grand Prix in P1. Then second place is Ricciardo, but for how much longer? Because Hamilton sends one down the inside. The 2 Mercs go hammer and tong now into turn 1. Obviously, the home favourite Ricciardo wants to keep his P2. Hamilton, though, my former teammate from last season, on the right-hand side, might be even 3 wide as the Alfa Romeo. Oh, I think Kvyat there gets involved. It's Vettel in the Williams, then round the outside, the Russian there, so Vettel up into P4. The 2 Mercs are still side by side. One of them has to give. I think it's Ricciardo. Yes, it is. And so Hamilton is up into P2, and he's still, oh, look at that. Ricciardo still trying it. So massive action here at the forefront. They're all basically nose to tail. The Toros of Leclerc and also Verstappen's Renault close behind. Then you've got Hulkenberg there, and then you can see there is myself just about staying ahead of Sergio Perez. Then you can see literally Perez looks like he was pushing me through that right-hander, and so as we move through on towards lap number 9, we are all as a train gaining on the train ahead. So even though Perez is pressurizing me, we're all gaining on Hulkenberg there, but you can see having to do a lot of defensive work, moving a little bit, funnily enough, into turn 1. That was probably on the edge of okay in terms of moving under braking there, but now we allow Norris to go side by side. So if the 2 McLarens want to fight as much as they want behind me, that's fine by me because that will help me out there. But you can see the amount of fighting that's going on ahead of us means that everyone's just basically bunching up, which is great for us, great for everyone really in terms of the race, because we've got plenty to go, still about 2/3 of the race left here, but we've got a lock up there by Ricciardo, so we move back to the action at the forefront here. Hamilton's got a gap there in P2, but can Sebastian Vettel nab the P3 in the new improved Williams car for Season 5? Round the outside he goes, Kvyat also sniffing around, but there goes number 5, overtaking number 3, and he's up into P3 as well, so the Williams flying a lot higher than it ever did last season. We now move to lap number 10 onto 11. We've got a few people finally making their first pit stop. My engineer has asked me, do I want to change the strategy? I'm thinking we stay out as long as we can, basically. Overtake Hulkmer, because I'm within DRS, so I kind of also fancy overtaking him, and then let's go on to a set of medium tyres. It seems like a lot of people are doing mediums. The tyre wear levels are good enough. I think we should, even though the engineer did recommend hards. I think the Ferrari should be able to do the medium tyre strategy. I'll kind of see what Russell does as well on this lap, basically, because I think he's pitting this lap, or potentially the one just before. So here we go, though. I wanted to overtake Hulkmer. We are going to do just that as we come through the final corner, then DRS open, overtake mode on the ERS there. We've been playing around with fuel and standing rich. The engine has been overheating quite a fair bit in the traffic and the dirty, so I have to watch out for that, but we're in rich mix right now as we're now level with Hulkenberg just about on the exit. He gets it back. We're going to have to re-get in the slipstream basically and pull through again on the left now. I'm going to make that famous pass we made twice now in this race, the long way round on that right-hander, and we're up into P1 now because everyone else ahead of us has made their pit stop. So savour this, lads, because this might be the first time and the only time in a long time in this career mode series right now that we lead a Grand Prix, because I don't think we're going to be winning races anytime soon. So let's treasure being in P1 for now. But at the very end of the lap, we come in then along with Hulkenberg and also McLaren. I can't quite tell which one it is, but we're now in for that pit stop. And like I said, we're onto a set of medium yellow wall tyres there, and that should easily get to the end. We just get ahead of the Alfa Romeo there, the pit crew with a pretty damn fast lap time. Of course, my contract perk of the pit stop time is the best I can get, because of course I was joining a bottom team having won the championship, so I could ask for the best perks on my contract with Ferrari there for the game. So good fast pit stops there, so we get ahead of the Williams, of Magnussen, and one of the McLarens here. But out of the pit lane, of course, the tyres are a little bit cold, and Magnussen, like he was earlier on, feeling a little bit punchy there. Around the outside he goes. He actually gets a really good mid-apex speed there to go alongside me, and we have to really work for it to keep the position of P8 there through the right-hander, but we just about get it with a screen freeze for good measure as well, unfortunately, on lap number 13. And then we also get tagged a little bit by Magnussen on the left there, so K-Man getting very aggressive, as he is in real life indeed, but we're going to hold that through and try and settle down for this position and try and just solidify this and try and push on, maybe, if that is a possibility, perhaps. But what seems more likely is one of the McLarens attacking us, but instead it's actually going to be McLaren on McLaren as Norris swings from the right to the left there with a massive darting dive to the inside there, and it's a fantastic move there on the outside, the high-speed chicane. Such a weird place to make a pass, especially on your teammate with the same machinery there, but Norris feeling feisty and wanting to get on with it rather than Sergio Perez maybe just sitting there behind me, so perhaps Norris is going to come charging at us now, so that might be a little bit worrying actually, because it looks like he's already building a gap to Perez, so he definitely seems like the faster McLaren of the two right now as it stands on this set of medium tyres. And here comes Lando Norris lurking, and as we look behind us, we kind of compromise our line there, went a little bit too deep on the left hand in the first part of the chicane, and so that's really hurt us down the entire back straight. Norris around the outside, under braking, gets us and pinches us into the apex there. Very aggressive, but it's fine by me in terms of I'm not going to complain about it. He's done a fabulous overtake there, just really couldn't defend. I had a half-assed attempt at defending that, and he's got the place, and he's actually pushed away. I mean, look how quick he is off that corner there. I know we're on high ERS, so that might be a difference, and also not rich mix for now, but he's really bolted away already, and so we've got DRS from him, and that's just about going to help us survive against Sergio Perez. I'm hoping we have the measure of the Perez, because he seemed a little bit slow compared to Norris, so at least we can maybe hold one McLaren at bay. We've got 12 laps to go in this Grand Prix, and we're still in the points-paying positions, so I'd like to kind of finish here. You know, I know it's only 2 points, but really, to be honest, in this car, trust me, the feeling in the car, 2 points is pretty damn good here at the Australian Grand Prix. And you can see here as we go through the last corner, getting all out of shape here with the oversteer. So this car is really not feeling too amazing at the moment here for me. And Perez is going to try his luck at overtaking. We're going to have to try and attack him through turns 1 and 2 to re-overtake him potentially without DRS though. And Perez also blocks us off on the exits. That's going to be doubly difficult then for us to make the move. And also to add to that, Magnussen, look at that on the left-hand side, tries to dive there. So once again, the Dane very confident on the brakes there at that specific corner, tries it, but we're going to hold it through for P10, but Perez has overtaken us, so that might be both McLaren's passes. Let's try and see if we can at least keep up with Perez, because he definitely seemed a little bit slower than Norris, and we will do as we move on later onto lap 20 on the back straight with DRS open here. Can we make the dive down the inside? It's going to be a little bit close as we get very close to the grass there and get a little bit wayward on the rear end. Bit of oversteer on the exit for good measure, but we get the job done down the inside. Going to go out wide on purpose to kind of scrub off the line there and make sure Perez has to yield. And so we're back up into P9 for those two crucial championship points. I don't know, you never know, at the very end of the season 2 points might mean a lot to us, so let's try and hang on to it. Meanwhile, here is the fight at the front then. So you've got Danica Fiat here in 3rd place in the Alfa Romeo, so he's done a madness and jumped everyone somehow. Sebastian Vettel in P4 then, but not for too long, because now this is Verstappen in the Renault, even despite the double lock-up there, around the outside to the inside for the next left there, and gets the job done just after Sector 1 on Sebastian Vettel, and so Verstappen up into P4. But yeah, the Alfa's done amazingly there in P3, and a little bit further back, he was in P3, but now Ricciardo's really struggling in his home GP. He's now overtaken, or is being overtaken by Leclerc in the Toro Rosso. And right behind, look who it is, Lando Norris. He shot off like a bullet after he overtook me, and this is where he is now. He's making a double pass down the inside. Fantastic dive from so far back, and he will get that place on Leclerc. He'll finish off the move on the next left and get the job done. 2 overtakes in 1, just like I did earlier on the race. But you can clearly see I probably had no chance of defending against Norris, because look how quick he is. He's now up into, I think that's P5 or P6. So, yeah, he had a lot of pace compared to Perez here. But speaking of the Mexican, we're going to try our best to hold him at bay. We've now got what will be 4 laps left in this Grand Prix. You can see here, I've set a personal best lap time. And despite doing that, Perez is still right at my heels here. So he's really keeping me honest. And this is a massive fight to just keep P9 here. So Perez, again, tries his luck on the right-hand side. Not going to work out, though, and will maintain that. But for how much longer? Can we keep this going all the way to the end of the race? That's the question, really. And whatever issue Ricciardo has, will that maybe mean he falls back towards us? That might be quite awkward if the two drivers that have swapped car positions find each other on track. We'll have to find out later. But now we go back to the front fight. And now Verstappen, having overtaken the Williams car, has now chased off the Alfa and overtaken him. Probably only a matter of time, because I think the Renault has generally better race pace there. Verstappen obviously is a little bit better than Danica Fiat, or a lot better than Danica Fiat, so he's up into P3 then. And so at the moment as it stands, the running order, if you forgot, is Pierre Gasly in P1, Hamilton P2, and then Verstappen up into P3. But back to our POV then, we move towards the final lap of the Grand Prix then. We've got Perez chasing after us, and also potentially in the background also Valtteri Bottas saving up ERS on that last sector. So now we're back up into hot lap and overtake mode to try and counteract Perez's GRS, but here he comes at a rate of knots. We go a little bit defensive to squeeze him to the right there. We hold it through on the outside into turn 1. Probably a mistake though, because that slows us both down, and that's going to allow Bottas to come out of nowhere to maybe make it nearly 3 wide. McLaren, Ferrari, Toro Rosso, we go very deep indeed in the middle of those two. Somehow keep it on the black stuff. We get a massive tank slapper though. For some reason I think the power went down on the curb there, but somehow we've held it through and managed to survive that. And actually Sergio Perez has been finessed by Bottas, and Bottas has got the overtake done up into P10. So on the last lap Perez has lost any points really in this race. But you can see here on the kind of general gist of things, it's all really bunched up quite a lot, and George Russell, my teammate, is only 3-4 positions behind me, whereas earlier on the race he was miles back there. So he's really gained quite a fair bit, and that's how slow I've kind of been in this second phase of the GP and how much faster he's been. But there you go then, crossing the line on that lap then. Pierre Gasly, absolutely dominant display for the win at the Australian Grand Prix. Hamilton in second and Verstappen in third. So I may have beaten him in the championship last season, but he's got the first laugh of season 5 of the F1 2019 career mode. We move through back to our POV. Norris sets the vast at the Grand Prix, so kudos to him. Absolute stonking drive, to be honest, there from our fellow Brit. But we move through the final corner then. It's been a very tough race, and we've had to fight very hard for 2 measly points in the World Championship, but that may mean a lot. So later down the line there, we'll definitely take it.
Great drive, great drive. We're really happy with that performance.
A victory for Racing Point, and the team will certainly be celebrating tonight. What do you think it was, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition today?
Well, I know it's a bit of a boring answer, but the truth is they simply had the best speed package on the day, and a driver who knows how to take advantage of that. It doesn't matter how much time you spend poring over the stats and planning strategies if you can't keep the pace, and our winner today showed they could do both.
Racing Point's performance today has shown that they can be competitive with the veterans of the sport. They're making their way out to the podium now as we speak, and the reaction from the crowd must be incredibly uplifting for them.
So you can see what I mean by everything being mega close, especially for us in the kind of, I guess you could say, midfield, even though it doesn't really feel like there's a top end or a midfield in this season, or it has been for the last few seasons. But you can see there's like only 2 seconds between myself and George Russell, and that was 5 positions there, the difference between 2 points and no points. So it's going to be mega close, I think, every race for us to just get these few little points until, obviously, we improve the car a fair bit. So, you know, it's a shame for Russell there, but that's nothing to be disheartened by, and it was all very tight. So, you know, you just get, you get held up by traffic for 1 lap. That's probably going to ruin your entire race, really, if it's that close. And you can see the top end also, Hamilton, although he didn't really take the fight to Gasly, it's still pretty close there, with only a couple of seconds. So it's not like Gasly's going to run away with this thing, hopefully. And I think the pattern may be very much like it was last season, where so many people are winning different races that it takes points off each other. So I think if we can just be yet again consistent and try and improve the car and just limit the damage, basically, of not trying to lose too many points to the leaders right now, we could make a late championship charge. But I mean, it's so early on, it's a little bit too early to be talking about the championship, to be honest. So let's just go with the positives. We got some points. The car felt a little bit better in the race than it did in quality, to be honest, but also at times the lack of power was very evident. So that's definitely where we're going to improve the car onto next race and for this first part of this season. So I thought about maybe purchasing or wanting to purchase the ultimate upgrade. We don't actually have enough resource points to afford that right now. So unlike last season, we're actually going to have to wait a whole episode more to purchase a major upgrade here. Instead, I'm going to go for a minor upgrade on the engine power, that very first one, because it's very cheap. And I think and hope, fingers crossed, that next race I'll still have enough points earned over that race and have left over right now that by the end of Bahrain's episode I should be able to afford that ultimate engine upgrade, hopefully. If not, then that's a little bit annoying and my maths has been correct there, but that's the plan and hope. But we're definitely focusing on engine power first in the first part of this season because it's so important on this year's game. The AI especially are so overpowered when it comes to straight line speed, sometimes it feels like, so we definitely need all the engine power we can get, because I felt it mid-corner. The acceleration in this car was really great. Off every corner I was able to close up, but then when in the third and fourth gear, when you want that engine power kicking in, it just didn't do it. So we need to focus on that. The aero was okay. I can always run higher wings and compromise myself that way. So that's my thinking there in terms of the car. But let me know what you guys think in terms of where I should be upgrading the car, where you felt I was lacking there. But if you guys did enjoy that first episode, a mega fight for 2 points there in a Ferrari, which is definitely not meant to be, but here you go. That's the beauty of the F1 game. Then be sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you are new around here to try for weekly full-on content, I've been aarava. How much to say? I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.